Howdy, folks. This is Cody from GameCan.net coming at you with something a little different today than what I normally do. Oh, I don't even want to do this. I was actually in bed just thinking about this and it was making me so fracking angry. I just had to get up to make this video. Well, it's not really a video, it's going to be that still image you see right there. But it's going to be me kind of ranting about, if you couldn't tell, Xenoblade Chronicles X. Now, before you get your panties in a wad, let me give you a little bit of context here. I played Xenogears on the original PlayStation. Mind you, this game came out after Final Fantasy VII, which made RPGs huge, which a lot of people, at the time at least, said was significantly a better game, which I never agreed with. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy Final Fantasy VII, but Xenogears was always the better game to me. It was so much bigger, so much more entertaining, had such a great story, great characters. I loved pretty much everything about it. So, imagine my shock and love when I discovered that Xenogears was actually supposed to be an episode 5 of a 7 episode series, with parts of other episodes thrown in for context and, just to make the game a little more complete. I was both super excited and very, very angry because obviously I wanted the other 6 games. I wanted all 7. I didn't just want number 5. Admittedly, number 5 was fantastic. So I was super, super psyched when they announced Xenosaga on the PlayStation 2. I was, I, me and Wang, because Wang was also a huge Xenogears fan, were we were in college at the time, and we when he got I didn't have a PlayStation 2 at the time. When he got Xenosaga episode 1, we sat and we ended up marathoning for about 10 to 12 hours, I believe. Laura was there, a couple other guys who I went to college with were there. And I just remember being severely underwhelmed coming from Xenogears to Xenosaga. I mean, the graphics were better, but I much preferred the graphics from Xenogears. The story was nowhere near as good. The characters weren't as interesting. The combat wasn't as good. I remember I pretty much gave up on the game about 10 hours in, and I know Wang played it a little bit longer than I did, but he eventually gave up on it too. Now, I do think Lore was a fan of the Xenosaga series. I know he, if I remember our conversations in the past correctly, didn't really care for Xenosaga Episode 2, but that I think is pretty much universal even among Xenosaga fans. Anyway, fast forward several years, and out of nowhere, at least to American audiences, Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii comes out. I pretty much knew nothing of this game when day one, I should say, and before that. I had long since stopped shopping at GameStop because GameStop is garbage. But, the Xenoblade Chronicles, the reason I bring this up, Xenoblade Chronicles was originally, and I don't know if it still is, but at least when it came out, was a GameStop exclusive. And I had already stopped shopping at GameStop, so I had no intention of going, but I kept reading how good Xenoblade Chronicles was. And that it was a spiritual successor to Xenogears and Xenosaga by proxy. So I ended up going and, shaking hands with the devil, going to GameStop and picking up Xenoblade Chronicles. And oh my god, was that one of the smartest decisions I have made in a long time. Xenoblade Chronicles blew me away in very similar ways and in some ways better ways than Xenogears did back in the day. I loved the characters. I loved the world. The giants anyway. I mean if you've played Xenoblade, I'm talking about the world. There's actually two giants in a giant vast ocean. Everybody lives on these giants. But anyway, I'm getting off track. Anyway, I loved pretty much everything about the game. Almost all of the characters were fantastic characters. I liked Shulk. I loved Dunban. Dunban is one of my favorite game characters to this day. Even the annoying characters, Ryan's pretty annoying, but he's realistic annoying. Like, I know people just as annoying as him or worse, and I can get along with them. They're all right. And yes, I know it sounds like I'm deviating from the Xenoblade Chronicles X, but bear with me. Anyway, the One of the reasons I'm going on this little tangent about the characters is I dislike mascot characters. Whenever there's a mascot character in the game, I usually straight up ignore them if I can. And when I'm forced to play with them, I just despise it. I hate it. I don't like mascot characters. They're usually shoehorned in. They're usually the most annoying characters, and because the developers know this, they often make them better, or at least give them super special power that you need to use at least some point in the game, or you get a severe advantage if you do, because they know most people aren't going to play as these except for like weeaboos. And whoop, oh, there I go. Anyway, what I'm saying here is these annoying super Japanese mascot characters, like in Xenoblade Chronicles, was Ricky. He was, or Riki, I believe it was actually pronounced. He was this little, one of the races in the game with these little bunny puffball things. And when I saw him, I was like, oh god, here's the stupid mascot character. Just, more stupid characters here just to make people happy. And my god, Riki has some of the best motivations for being a character in the game. He's the father of numerous children. He's kind of a dope, but he's genuinely good-hearted. He has all these kids he's got to take care of. He's got his wife he's got to take care of. People don't really, I don't want to say they don't like him in his clan, but he's basically a nobody. But he has all this responsibility. So when he meets the characters from Xenoblade, he goes out and he's like, this is, I mean, I'm using human words because he talks like a little goofball because he's the mascot character. But his motivation is, I need to do this to take care of my family. I have children, I have a wife, and because I want to earn the respect of my family and my clan. I was like, you know what? That's pretty solid motivation. I've never seen a mascot character with any near that motivation. Heck, I've not that I've never seen. Sorry, this is all unscripted and off the cuff. I'm just going to blunder over my words, even worse than I normally do. Anyway, what I'm getting at is the Riki's motivation was just as good, if not better, than normal characters. Characters who aren't mascot characters, who don't rely on being cute or, being annoying. And yes, he was annoying. I won't deny that. But with his story and how he actually interacted with the other characters, he was a better character than. I don't want to compare him to other characters in Xenoblade because almost all the characters are good in Xenoblade. But better than most standard JRPG characters, period. Let alone versus other mascot characters. And as much as I really wanted to hate Riki, I couldn't. He was a great character. I didn't use him much because his voice was annoying, his mannerisms were annoying. Yeah, he was annoying, but he was honestly a very good character. Now the reason I went through all of that, and you're probably thinking, okay, other than the fact that you're talking about previous games in the series, what the crap does this have to do with Xenoblade Chronicles X? Oh my god. I'm sure you can tell where I'm going with this by my mannerisms and how much I had to set that up. Anyway, I'll just start the story from where it began. When this game was first announced, I pre-ordered it on Amazon as soon as it was available. I promptly forgot I had it pre-ordered on Amazon. Amazon has this thing to where if you don't tell it to specifically show you or older, wow, see, I told you I'm going to mess up my words. If you don't specifically tell Amazon to show you orders that are over 6 months old, it hides them. So after 6 months, because I pre-ordered this game so long ago, it stopped showing me I had this game pre-ordered because I didn't know that. Two, I didn't bother to look, so it's partially my own fault. But anyway, so when I was updating my budget to check what games I had pre-ordered to write them into my budget, I noticed Xenoblade Chronicles X wasn't in it. So knowing that it was coming out soon, I pre-ordered it again. To make a long story short, because it's actually much more complicated than that, I now have two copies of this game, which I wasn't too upset with. I was like, you know what? I'm a game collector. It's the new Xenogears, Xenoblades, whatever. I'm going to be happy enough to have one to open and play and one to keep new in my game room. Well, when I finally cracked this game open and played it, I was a little late because, full disclosure, I am so hopelessly engrossed in love with Fallout 4, it's really hard to drag me away. And maybe that's part of the reason I'm a little upset right now. Anyway, we'll get to that later. You'll see. Um, So anyway, I pop in Xenoblade Chronicles X. Lore had already been telling me, I won't say glowing things, but definitely positive and good things about this game because he's been playing it for the last few days before me because I've still been playing Fallout, as I mentioned before. So when I finally get the game, pop it in, I like the character creation's pretty good. I generally prefer games of this type with main characters that are actually pre-made because usually the story is better. Not always, but when the character is actually a part of the story, it's more integrated would be the right way of saying it. And characters don't have to refer to your character by weird things like "oh, the survivor" or "oh, blue" or whatever. Anyway, I didn't mind the character creation process. I made the character look pretty cool. Got into the game. First impressions when I got out of the escape pod, I was like, "Oh my god, this looks and feels very, very similar to Xenoblade." I mean, the battle system and the exploration system very much was based off of and taken from Xenoblade Chronicles, the first one. And while it was, I won't say fine tuned because honestly I think this one's a little bit worse, but not much. Still very good as far as battle system and exploration. It was clearly derived from it. And, I was like, okay, this is different. Some of these directions I don't care for, but you know what? This is still good, solid Xenoblade combat, exploration. I'm liking it. I'm digging it. You meet, I believe her name is Elma, right off the bat. She's a very attractive and very, very lethal combatant. And I'm a little shitlord. Put a pretty girl in a game, especially one with white hair, and so anyway, I was pleased. I had a super smoking hot companion, awesome gameplay. I was running forward, and with this type of game, especially with the original one, I did a lot of grinding. So I spent probably about an hour just in that first area grinding off of enemies, collecting collectibles, and doing stuff like that. I was like, okay, I've done this for about an hour. I'm probably over leveled for where I need to be. Let's just get on with the story. This one of the things I absolutely loved about Xenoblade was the story. Now, actually, here's one thing. I will comparisons between the Xenoblade and Xenoblade X. The first 10 minutes of Xenoblade is so fracking amazing. It blew my mind. I the prologue is so good. The scenario is good. The action is good. The gameplay is good. The music is good. The characters are good. It perfectly sets up the mood. It perfectly sets up what you're getting into. You get to intimately know several characters who are going to have major importance later in the game. You get to control them. I mean, you get to see their fate of, I should say, the fate of one of them. I was sold in Xenoblade Chronicles, the original one, not the original. I mean, I guess it is the original Xenoblade, the Wii game, I should say, because of course this being a game series that has kind of spiritually sequeled a lot. Anyway, I was sold that quickly in the original game, and the game kept up on that promise that that first 10 minutes gave me. Throughout 90% of the original Xenoblade, I was having the best time. I was thoroughly in love, enjoying every minute. I would send texts to my friends about how good this game was and the various stories things. And don't get me wrong, when I say 90%, I'm not saying that the other 10% of the time I was having a bad time. It's just we went from an A plus game to a low A game, maybe sometimes at the worst a B game. So the reason I went back there was in this game, there's a nice movie intro, a cutscene, FMV, whatever you want to call it, explaining the backstory. It was pretty cool. I won't deny it. It was definitely nothing compared to the Xenoblade Chronicles prologue, but it was acceptable. No complaints there. Then you go directly into waking up from this pod, being escorted around by Elma. In another game, that would be 100% acceptable to me. And I'm not even going to say it was unacceptable. It's just the stark contrast between Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles X's introductions was really riveting to me. I was immediately sold 100% with Xenoblade Chronicles. I was just kind of like, yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles X opening's pretty good. Nothing bad here. Nothing great, but nothing bad. Hey, almost cute. Oh, the combat's fun. Oh, lots of stuff to explore. I like it. Anyway, eventually did go to the city, the crashed spaceship. And my God, this is where it really started going downhill for me. New LA, what can I say about New LA? I don't remember the name of the first town in Xenoblade Chronicles, but to compare them is partially apples and oranges, but I have to. I was totally in love with that first town in Xenoblade Chronicles. I spent hours doing all those stupid little side quests just because I was so fascinated by the town. I loved the music, I loved the mood, I loved the people. Everything in that town was amazing to me. And it was just, a small little RPG town. I mean, it was bigger and better than a lot of standard RPG towns, but it was, nothing terribly out of the ordinary. New LA is kind of ugly to look at. The music, oh my god. The music up to this point in the game hadn't really impressed me, especially considering how great the music in Xenoblade Chronicles was. But it was, I didn't. Guar Plains, for example, in the original Xenoblade, Guar Plains is one of the best themes, the daytime theme. I have that on my MP3 player in my car. Well, full disclosure, I have several songs from Xenoblade Chronicles on the MP3 player in my car. But anyway, that doesn't come until probably 3, 4 hours in the game. I don't remember exactly. Assuming you don't sit and do all the stupid shit like I do, that is. That's assuming you actually make way through the game. So I was like, you know what? It's okay that the music isn't up to snuff right yet because even the best songs in the game weren't coming until later in the original game. But when I got to New LA, all I could think was, my God, please tell me the composer from the first game is not the composer for this game because I freaking hate the music for New LA. Did I say New Vegas earlier? Whatever. New LA is what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. The it it's I it's like they sampled some hip hop but then decided against it and then it doesn't really go anywhere. And like I said, the city's nothing to look at. I mean, it's kind of impressive. It kind of Akira-esque. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad comparison, but in comparison to Xenoblade Chronicles, it is. Anyway, at that point, I was already like, "What the hell's going on here?" But then it got worse. You start meeting the other characters, and this is why I went through that long tirade about Riki earlier. Riki is an archetype of character I almost universally hate. In almost every game that has a mascot character, I hate them, and if I don't hate them, I greatly dislike them. Yet somehow he was a fantastic character. The reason I did all that comparison was because he, being an archetype I hate, still is considerably better than almost every NPC I have met up to where I've gotten in Xenoblade right now, or Xenoblade Chronicle X. He's better than all of them. I mean, I hate to say it because I actually like Elma, but he's better than her too. I mean, the only thing she's got on him is she's hot. He's a stupid little puffball, and he still has a better story and better character. You meet a couple of random agents, Gwen, I believe, and I don't remember the other one's name. And they're okay. I mean, they're nothing to write home about. They're and any man, any woman, JRPG slash anime trope. However, not being obnoxious about it. They move on. Then you see a spacesuit. I mean, not a spacesuit. I don't think it's a gear. They're not called gears in this game. I think they're called skells, like skeletons, because they're exoskeletons and they're stupid. Anyway, I'll just call it gear because I mushmouthed enough stuff already. There's this gear flying throughout the air and it crashes. Okay, well, whatever. That's not that uncommon in anime slash JRPGs, any RPGs really. And I think his name is Doug pops out. Doug's a little bit of a douche canoe, but he's tolerable. Then, then, oh my god, then this obnoxious, and I mean thoroughly obnoxious, little teeny bopper Japanese slash Chinese. I'm sorry, I know I sound like a racist here, but I'm not trying to be. It's an anime. Well, it's an anime game. Everyone looks alike, let alone people of different races or similar races, I should say. Well, anyway, this Asian girl, I believe her name is Lynn. I guess I should have looked this up before. Um, I'm looking it up now. I'm super professional. Yes, her name is Lynn Lee Ko or Koo. Oh my God. From the moment her car, mind you, according to their characters, she's too young to be driving. Of course, who cares? Everyone's dead. But from the moment she drives onto the screen, I was like, what is going on here? And then she has the audacity to open her mouth, and oh my God, she is the well, not the worst anime stereotype of the annoying underage girl, but she's definitely in the running for super annoying anime girls. Everything she said makes she's Navi levels of hey listen, only hey gears. Um anyway, the character's really off-putting pretty much from the get-go. And to make matters worse, she's wearing a Minato beret in her hair. Not one, but two. I mean, I know this is supposed to be at the beginning of the timeline. How the hell does she know what the Minato looks like? I mean, is this, unless it's a total reboot, which I don't think it is, it's Xenoblade Chronicles X. Even assuming Xenogears and Xenosaga don't take place in this same timeline, Xenoblade Chronicles X and Xenoblade Chronicles should. They have the same name. How does this girl have a legendary sword? I mean, maybe this is explained later. I'm sure it is. I'm not terribly far in the game. But first impressions, why would they do that? Who would take a legendary sword, assuming the timelines are connected, go, I'm going to make a legendary sword that can kill gods and, fell mechs, and it's going to be super badass and only the most elite fighters ever can carry it. Oh, let's make it look like this annoying little girl's beret. Who does that? Fuck you, Xenoblade Chronicles X. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked again. I'm sorry this is so ranty, but this is therapy for me. I have to get this out. Like I said, I was literally trying to sleep, and I couldn't because of this game. Okay, so right away, as you can probably tell, I was super not impressed by this town. I was super not impressed by the characters. Turns out all these characters belong to an organization called Blade, which is an acronym for blathering, lactating assholes. Ah, anyway, that's totally made up, of course. I'm too dumb to come up with the rest of the acronym on the spot. This was unscripted, as most of my stuff is. Anyway, they all belong to Blade, so they make it very obvious from the get-go they're going to try to recruit you into Blade. Well, they also make it very obvious from the get-go that it's your choice. You don't have to join Blade. They say this constantly. Elma says this. Jan, I believe his name is the guy who runs Blade, says this. Well, he doesn't run it, but he's their commanding officer. It's said numerous times. You go on a bunch of horrible little tour quests, which I don't know. I mean, they're not terribly long, but it's the most stupid drivel. And I was already decided at this point. He's like, I don't like these characters. I don't care about the city. I'm not going to join. They're giving me the choice. I'm going to say no. It's probably a more interesting story anyway, going rogue or solo, because these characters are not very interesting to begin with. So, maybe I'll be in opposition to them. Maybe, not we'll be competing, not necessarily in opposition. That sounds actually pretty cool. So I was, at this point, I decided I'm not going to join. So they take me on this little tour, which is even longer because I already know I'm not going to join. That stupid song is playing in the background. And that stupid Lynn girl is being stupidly annoying with her stupid little Minato Bretts. And it's like 2 or 3 quests long. It's not terribly long. It's probably about 20 minutes tops that you have to do this. But, 20 minutes of something you're annoyed of 10 seconds in. You don't want to do that shit. Anyway, so we go back to the commanding officer, Jen, or whatever his name was. And he, pops the question, will you join Blade? So I'm like, no, not interested. And it's funny because it pauses on his face and pans out towards your character. And just the look on his face, it actually made me laugh because it was like, did this motherfucker just turn me down? He had that look on his face, and I genuinely laughed at that. That was a pretty damn good moment, I will admit. But then he goes in this little guilt trip thing about, oh, we saved you. All these people need to be saved. I'm like, you know what? I'm not interested. Thanks. So he does that little look again. It's not as funny the second time, but it's still kind of funny. I snigger. And basically, it goes into a "Will you marry me? No, thou must." Dragon Quest loop where he'll literally just say some snarky thing about Oh, the way you some semantics game. The way you said no means you mean yes, right? And you could say no again, but then that just repeats until you say yes. And here I am, pretty dumbfounded because it's like you went out of your damn way to make it obvious that I don't have to join your stupid little group in your stupid ugly city with your stupid people who are just anime stereotypes. Even the cool one's just an anime stereotype, but she's just a cool one. I do it a few times just to make sure, and sure fuck enough, you gotta join. I should have saw it coming because if all the characters are from this damn group, of course you're gonna have to join. But I was blinded by the fact that they gave the illusion of choice, especially the fact that they kept bringing up it was your choice. So that really pissed me off. I pretty much I want nothing to do with these characters. The only reason I'm here at this point, well, one obviously because I have to be, but because Elma's hot. Ugh. Whatever. I joined their stupid little douche canoe crew and go out on a mission. So I'm back out in the world. At this point, I'm like, you know what? I went through all that shit, but I'm back in the world. I enjoy the combat. I enjoy the exploration. The world is pretty cute. Wow, pretty cute. I'm such a douche canoe. This is how tired I am, folks. The world is actually very good to look at. I have to say this though, as good as the world is to look at, I am nowhere near impressed with this world. Mira, I believe it is, like look in Spanish, as I was with the world in Xenoblade Chronicles. And here's why. The the Wii, the original Wii, was basically running slightly more powerful than the PlayStation 2 graphically, and most games that weren't first party games didn't use probably half of that. Most of the games on there were, just kiddie shovelware that looked like crap. So at that point in time, the best looking game I think I'd played it was Skyward Sword: Legend of Zelda. It had been a while. I think it was about a year between those games. I don't know. Maybe it was about the same time. It's been so long. Regardless, when I first saw how beautiful the world in Xenoblade Chronicles was, it blew my mind because I thought I had seen the best the Wii can do. The Wii is a relatively limited system graphically. It's like, how did they squeeze all of this extra beauty out of the Wii? It's like the old Nintendo games. You look at some of the earliest ones and they look like utter trash. They're barely better than 2600 games. You look at some of the latest ones, the ones that came out at the very end of the Nintendo's life, like when the Super Nintendo was already an established system, and they almost look as good as some Super Nintendo games. Like, how did they milk that last bit of graphical power out of the system? That's how I felt about Xenoblade Chronicles. It looked so good. The animations were so fluid. There was so much going on. I couldn't believe that came out of my Wii. I think the exact quote I said to Laura was, "My little Wii done growed up." I was so happy. That being said, the Wii U is slightly more powerful than a PlayStation 3. I've seen, at least as far as I've gone, admittedly, I'm not terribly far in the game yet, but I've seen early PlayStation 3 games with better looking graphics than most of the world surrounding New Los Angeles. So that's kind of a letdown. Don't get me wrong, it does look good. It does look really good. At least the world does. The characters kind of look hideous. But it's because they're just anime characters. That's another thing. The art style was much better in Xenoblade Chronicles, even if it was just kind of a more mature anime style. They looked more realistic. Maybe it was because of the graininess of the system, but I've seen like the hand art, the hand drawn artwork. This the what's the word I'm looking for? The concept art and the official art, and I like that art style much more for the humans than the standard anime art style that the humans in X have. The lone exception is my character, and I'm not saying that oh I made such a good character. I used one of the base models and made it to where I wanted it to look. But I think it's just because the face that base model came with. I don't know. Maybe the main characters do look better than the side characters, or the NPCs would be the better way of putting that. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked again. Sorry, this video is going to be like an hour long. Not really. I'm sitting at 30 minutes. I'm nearing completion, so stay with me a little bit longer if you're still here, folks. I appreciate it. Anyway, we're out in the world. They forced me to bring Lynn, so I'm pissed about that. But we got to go set up this some sort of machine. I think it's like to track the pods of the other people. Oh my god, here I go again. One of the things I have for totally spaced. Just the whole I don't even remember what that machine was is what reminded me of this. The story in this, I don't want to say I don't know what's going on because I know what's going on. I feel like I don't know what's going on because the story in Xenoblade, even this early, was so good. I was so invested on it. I was so hanging on every detail. I could, you know, I'm at a loss for words. I'm sorry, folks. What I'm trying to say is the story in Xenoblade Chronicles X thus far, mind you, I think I was probably about 3 hours into the game at this point. Um, is non-existent. I mean, we're running from the aliens who are trying to kill us. Okay, yeah, I get that. That's fine. I'm not no objections to that. But pretty much everything from there is not necessarily cliche, but it's all run of the mill. You can find this story in any game. I mean, Star Ocean's done this just off the top of my head. I've seen this in other movies, shows, and admittedly, this is probably the starting point of the Xeno universe, so they got to start with that. But nothing that was going on, I was invested in a little bit. One of the things I always say about video games, RPGs in particular, is you either have to get me on the characters, I either have to love the characters, or I have to love the world. Both is perfect. But if I love the characters, then even if I don't necessarily care what's going on in the world, I'll stick around for the characters. If the characters aren't that great, but I really love the world, I want, to fix what's going on, I want to be a part of it, then I'll ignore the fact that the characters aren't as good as they could be just to be a part of that world. And so far, this game has neither of those things for me. I don't care about Mira. I only tangentially care about the humans because they're humans and they think they're the last ones. I don't think it's been specifically said that they are, but they definitely think they are. So other than the fact that we share a race, I generally don't care what's going on in this game. The story's not enough to pull me in. There's nothing really super going on. Anyway, I was just going through that because I just missed that earlier. As I said, I'm not going off a script. Sorry if I keep repeating myself. So we go and we plant this thing, or we're going to plant this thing. And there are these monsters called tyrants in this world, which even in Xenoblade Chronicles, there were huge monsters that were significantly more powerful than all the other monsters in the area. And you might not be able to kill them at all. Actually, generally, I don't think you could kill them at that point. Guar Plains, going back to Guar Plains, perfect example. There were a lot of big monsters there that were not you couldn't really kill at that point, or if you could, it was going to take everything you had out of you. And the point was, you would come back later and kill those monsters when you were more powerful, which I did, and I think most people did, or if they just played it straight through, then whatever. But the point was, there were supposed to be monsters you weren't supposed to kill, kind of like an MMO. So we find one of these. It's called a tyrant. Um, and it's killed several of these gorilla-looking creatures, which both of the characters with me state, "Oh my God, this is so weird." Normally those gorillas would have killed the tyrant, or not the tyrant, but what the race slash type of tyrant. It was like a giant beetle. Normally the gorillas kill the beetles, is what I'm trying to say. But in this case, the beetle, one lone beetle, killed multiple gorillas. So this must be a tyrant. And then I'm like, at this point, I don't care what's going on. I'm playing a contrarian character at this point because I'm in this group because I've been forced to. I don't like the people around me. So I'm like, the options are, oh, let's go kill it, or, let's speculate about what we can do and be smart. So I'm like, let's go kill it because I want to see the characters I'm going to die at this point. And they're like, oh, we know you just woke up and have amnesia, but you can't kill those things. They're so hard to kill. They're so strong. Elite groups come back totally beat up and wounded, or they don't come back at all when they fight these things. Basically, they're setting this up that this is one of those really hard monsters you can't kill, like in Xenoblade. Then I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is going to be the tutorial to avoid those things like the plague. And then my next choices were, come on, let's go kill this, or we have to kill this to defend the people. So the people agree. So my first thought is, oh fuck, I'm dead. My second thought is, wait a second, if they're wanting me to kill this in the game, then I'm supposed to kill this, or it's supposed to, a plot death, which, of course, it didn't turn out to be. The tyrant, this big horrible creature that kills the best of the best, was one of the easiest fights I'd had in the game. Not, t- Let me rephrase that, because of course the level one creatures in the beginning of the game were easier, but in that area, I had harder fights with standard enemies than I did with this supposed killing machine that killed other supposed killing machines. What the fuck, Xenoblade Chronicles? Why did you put all of that exposition, all of that tiring drivel about how I'm not supposed to be fighting these things, how they're so dangerous, if I had an easier time killing it than I did the giraffe fucking dinosaur 10 minutes earlier? I don't understand. I know it's this game I don't understand. I really want to love this game, folks. I do. It's making it very hard for me. Regardless, we go back to town, report our glaring success. They're like, "Oh, pick one of 8 jobs." I was like, "Well, which job is going to keep me farthest away from this town?" There were two. I don't remember the names at this point. I think one of them was interior decorating. It's not interior decorating. It's something like that. Um, because I remember thinking it's curating. That's what it was. I was like, because that's what I thought of was an interior decorator, like a red mage hanging up curtains that match with his hat. But the what curators did, if I remember correctly, is they go out and explore unknown areas and gather stuff. Was like that's a pretty good job because it's going to keep me far away from this fucking shithole that is New LA. And the other one was I don't remember what it's called, but it was basically the group that goes out and kills regular monsters and tyrant monsters. I eventually chose that one because it focused on just killing, which killing and exploration are the two parts of the game I enjoy. The reason I didn't choose curators because it specifically sounded like a harvesting job, and uh, even though I did a lot of harvesting in Xenoblade Chronicles, the first one, I didn't do enough to make it something I literally want a central. I'm screwing up my words again. Sorry. I wasn't so into it that I want that to be the focus of my gameplay. So that's why I chose the one that's the killing job. Anyway, I got another assignment, and at this point in the game, I think I was about 4.5 hours in. I saved and stopped playing. I was so frustrated with this game. I don't know what to think so far. So far, I do not have good opinions of this game. Um, the good. Hey, this is kind of like an audio review. I haven't actually done a standard review at the website in a while, and here's kind of one. Anyway, the good about Xenoblade Chronicles X so far. The combat is, as I mentioned earlier, very much derived from Xenoblade Chronicles combat. If you liked that combat, you're going to like this combat. Maybe not as much. I don't know. Maybe you like it a little more. I mean, we're not all the same. I think you'll like this combat if you liked it. The exploration is good. In a game where Final Fantasy, the game that pretty much made exploration fun, is a tube. In a world where that's the case, games like this are amazing because I just love the exploration aspect of old RPGs, and I love it in the new ones too. I definitely enjoy the exploring, the collecting things. I think I've gone over the bad enough, but just a quick recap: the characters, the story, the tropes, and Lynn. For the the combat and exploration, I would say this is easily maybe like an 8.5 or a 9 on a 1 to 10 scale, so like a low A, high B, and a grade scale. For the rest of the game, I would say maybe a 4 or a 5. And honestly, I'm feeling a little bit more generous right now because I've vented. When I was thinking this through earlier, I was thinking there's no way I would give this more than 4. So the fact that I went up to 5, it's just, I'm trying to be a little more fair while still keeping my anger. Right now, I do not like this game. It is definitely not the spiritual or direct sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles. I do think it's better than Xenosaga, but I really hated Xenosaga. I'm not giving up on this game. I am probably not going to play it again, or at least not get really into it until I'm done with Fallout 4. Because that was one of the things I was thinking the entire time. Once I realized I didn't like this game, it's like I could be playing Fallout 4 right now. So This is my rant video for Xenoblade Chronicles X. I'm less than 5 hours in, I'll admit, but first impressions have not been good. Maybe I'll make another video ranting when or maybe even, hey, maybe it might be a good video. Maybe once I get back into this, I'll be like, you know what, I was kind of wrong. Maybe Lynn turns out to be a fantastic character, and I love having her on my team. I can't foresee that happening, but I've been wrong before, and willing to admit when I'm wrong. So the next video, if I make another one, I'll come back with new good, new bad, any revisions, and I'll let you know more what I think. Keep tuned at GameCan.net if you haven't been there. We're not just on YouTube. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you disagree with me, I'm cool with that. We're all able to have our own opinions. And, I'm not going to disrespect you. Feel free to disrespect or troll me. I'm cool with that too. Just give it a like if you liked it. If you don't, hey, give it a like because you're going to have something to troll. Anyway, have a great day, folks. I'm going to go to bed because I'm tired.